Good evening, and thank you for attending our superintendent meet and greet and for taking the time to visit with us virtually at this special event. We're excited about this opportunity to come together to meet the district's new superintendent and to discuss your feedback about schools under these unique circumstances that we find ourselves. Thank you to everyone who submitted questions and comments over the past several days. We will get to as many subjects as we can, but please know that your voice has been heard and your questions have been read. If you have any other questions that come in the coming days or during the course of our discussion, please contact your site principal to receive answers to your questions. Let's start by please joining me in welcoming our new superintendent, CJ Kamek. CJ comes to us from Martinez Unified School District, where he was the superintendent for 4 years. He worked at all levels of education from teacher to principal to district director to assistant superintendent over his 20-year career. Let's give a great round of applause for CJ and throw him a quick hello. Hi, CJ. Oh,
Hello,
welcome,
everybody.
welcome, welcome. Good.
Thank you.
Um, we'll hear from CJ shortly. Also, I wanted to let you know that we are happy to have the Mission San Jose Attendance Areas principals online with us this evening, as well as the district administrators. Let's introduce them each individually. We'll start with Assistant Superintendent of Instruction, Leticia Salinas. Give a wave. Hi. Director of Elementary Education, Robin Surth. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Thank you, Robin. Director of Secondary Education, Zach Larson. Hi, Zach. Mission San Jose High School Principal, Jeff Evans. Hi, Jeff. Good to see you. Hopkins Junior High School Principal, Corey Brown. Good to see you up there too, Corey. Chadbourne Elementary School Principal, Kim Pederati. Pederati. Kim. I know my name is hard to pronounce too, so I'm just trying my best to make sure I pronounce these correctly. Gomes Elementary Principal, Pamela Hughes. There we are, Pamela. Mission San Jose Elementary School Principal, Katie Carter. Mission San Jose Elementary School Principal, Denise Mapelli. Hi, Denise. And last but not least, Fremont Adult and Continuing Education Principal, Heidi McFadden. And I think I see somebody else that I didn't have on my list. Our school, Stephanie Walton is our principal at our, tell me again what the name, Coyle, our Coyle school. Thank you for being here with us. And I'm sorry your name wasn't on my list. Thank you to our district administrators for being here. I think we also have Brian Kilgore, who's with us today, who's uh, our media officer here with us. Hi, Brian. Is there anybody else that I missed that I did not introduce? Okay, great. Okay, let's start our discussion by turning it over to Superintendent CJ for some opening comments about his experiences so far on the job as Fremont Unified School District Superintendent and to summarize what we'll be covering this evening. Thank you, CJ.
Thank you, President Campbell, and thanks for everybody for being on the meeting this evening, and for those viewers who are watching at home, thank you for being a part of this conversation. In terms of where we're going to go through the conversation this evening, we're going to talk a little bit about distance learning, what's working, where some of our challenges lie, and how we can continue to improve on our distance learning program. We're going to talk a little bit about the reopening of in-person instruction at some point in the future. We're also going to be talking about our budget, and we'll be talking about some other topics related to equity, and we may hit some other topics if time allows as well. In terms of just acknowledging real briefly the opening experiences thus far for me as superintendent in Fremont, tremendous experience starting in Fremont. Certainly, there are challenges that are not unique to Fremont that are certainly unique to education in these moments. We all recognize what those are in terms of building a distance learning program. And we also recognize that reshaping the entire way that we deliver teaching and learning for students since we closed schools in March of last year has been a remarkable endeavor. And we all recognize that that was an initial crisis response in the spring. And what a difference the start of the year has been in terms of a comprehensive distance learning program. And we'll talk about that more in a moment. I would like to extend my gratitude and thanks to our community at large. The parents that I've had the opportunity to meet with and talk with have been fantastic. I've had the great pleasure to meet with many students, and that has been a wonderful experience. I even had the opportunity to read to a group of first graders, and that was extraordinary. Certainly developing a lot of empathy for what our primary teachers are working through. And in that voice, I want to extend my thanks to our parents and our students. Our parents have really stepped up to the plate to be partners in teaching and learning this year, and our students have shown an incredible amount of resiliency. And with that, I want to thank the staff across Fremont Unified for a very warm welcome. I have had a long list of things that drew me to this position as superintendent for Fremont Unified, and I am incredibly honored and humbled to be able to serve in this position. And I really view my work as superintendent as something that is servant-based leadership. It's my role to serve the community as a whole, to serve our students and to serve our staffs, and to see how I can support the great things that are already happening, to see how I can continue to push us as an organization to higher levels of success, and to also be part of important conversations where we recognize the areas where we need to make improvements to make sure that we are becoming an organization that's functioning at the highest level possible for all of our stakeholders, for all of our students. And I really look forward to being a part of that conversation. So I thank everybody for a very warm welcome. And I do look forward to a time where I can build relationships in person in this new community and not through a digital medium. But until that time happens, I will do my very best to build these relationships through a digital platform. And with that, I will turn it back to President Campbell, and we'll start talking a little bit about our distance learning program.
Wonderful. Thank you, CJ. And again, welcome to Fremont Unified School District. It is our honor and pleasure to have you here to be able to serve with you as we do the work that we need to do for our students and their families and our staff. So far, how has distance learning been going? Would any of you like to comment on that question?
As the administrators in the room, so to speak, are preparing their answers, I will share that in my conversations with districts across the county, across other Bay Area counties, and with other colleagues across the state, as we've talked about distance learning programs, I think this is a huge chance to give a shout out to our educators, our support staff, our administrators. I would put our distance learning program up against anybody's. And from a context of looking at it across the organization, it's not perfect, but it is something that I have seen a relentless commitment towards improvement. And that improvement is important, but I also want to really extend my compliments to everybody who's been involved with making it even such a successful start, because I think that our comprehensive distance learning program is one that I would put up against any others that I've seen in the Bay Area or the state. And I've been really, really impressed with how our educators have stepped up to the plate and how our students have done the same, and our support staff, whether it's in the offices at school sites or whether it's our paraprofessionals supporting some of our students with special needs. And I look forward to hearing from some of our administrators on the call about what's happening at their site.
Yeah, I would
Thank you.
echo a lot of what Mr. Kamek said. When we went into this last spring, it was very tough, and we got a lot of feedback from the community and from everyone about how to make this right. And our staff took that to heart over the summer and during PD, and we've made it a lot better. And I'm so proud of the staff, the students for their patience, and the community for their support, and us learning how to do it this way. The new schedules that we've created, the software that's been adopted has been really beneficial to our student support. And some of the things that we've even found that work, like the back to school night going online. We've actually found some really neat things that we hope to utilize even when we come back into in-class sessions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Evans. Would anyone else like to share? I can see everybody, so you can raise your hand if you'd like to share. Oh, Kimberly.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would like to echo on that too, but I know.
Oh, Kimberly, can you move a little bit closer to the microphone, please? A little bit better.
I was having problems. I practiced with Denise earlier. It didn't work. Can you
Okay.
hear me now?
A little bit better, but let's try. Keep trying.
Okay, I may have to change something. So
No, you were okay. We'll come back to you then. Okay, Denise.
And just sort of echoing what Mr. Evans had shared, in the spring, it was scramble and, mode just to get something in place. And I have to say, none of this has been easy, but the fact that our staff across the board, and especially our teaching staff, they worked over the summer because they were truly committed to putting a program into place that would support our kids. And, originally in the summer, we were hoping to come back in some more normal experience, if you will. But the resilience of not only our teaching staff, our support staff, our kids. I have never laughed so much in sessions. I think it was day 2 or 3. I was in a second grade classroom, and all of a sudden the teacher disappeared, and a child said, "Oh, the teacher's name just left the screen." And another child said, "That's okay, she'll be back." And another one said, "Oh, here she comes." So it's like this adaptability. And it has just been heartwarming to know that the troops have rallied around, and it doesn't matter if you're a kindergarten teacher at this school or a 6th grade teacher, everybody's willing to say, "I learned a shortcut with this," or "I learned of that." And just the sharing. And I have had more parents and family members reach out and say, "I need to give kudos to Mr. or Ms. So-and-so because the program that my kid or my children are experiencing is unlike any other and more than anyone can imagine." And so I just am very grateful for the staff that I work with here at Mission Valley, because this, again, hasn't been easy, but they have made it look almost effortless in many respects.
That's wonderful. Any others? Okay, Mr. Zach?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that, as I have in the other attendance area meetings, that we're learning things now that will help us as when we go back to in-person instruction. We were all forced to learn new forms of technology, but also that resiliency and, like Denise mentioned, the troops rallying around. It's great to see how our teachers have come together to problem solve, how our counselors have. How our athletic directors are looking at how can we support our athletes. It's really, really reassuring that our community comes together to do what's best for kids.
That's wonderful. So let me ask you another quick question on this. How can the families help you here with the distance learning? What are some of the things that you're seeing that the families might be able to support their students' learning to help? Okay, I see Ms. Carter.
Hi, thank you. So families have been phenomenal, from the beginning of our distance learning. I have been saying that we all, staff, students, and families, need to practice patience and flexibility. And it is so appreciated how families have embraced that idea, being patient with our teachers. Most of our teachers are making this distance learning look easy, but I promise you that they have been working tirelessly to create an environment where all students can have an education that's near close to what it would be in person. So I ask, for all families to continue to be patient and flexible, because just like students, staff have their good and bad days with technology and associated with distance learning.
Thank you. I would agree with that. We have to be patient and kind with one another because it is a very new environment. Would anyone else like to comment on that question? Okay. Oh, okay. Um, Ms. Hughes?
Well, our families have been really going the extra mile to make sure that their students are at school on time and ready to go,
Yeah.
which is not easy when you're just popping out of bed and sitting at your desk. But we've asked them from the beginning to put on clothes, get out of their PJs, have breakfast, all of those things. And our attendance has been really good. And most of the time when someone hasn't been there, it's because of a technology issue. So the internet went down, or somehow the Chromebook froze, or whatever it was. But our families have been great at having their kids up and ready to go and start learning first thing in the morning.
Oh, that's wonderful. That is so good to hear. Also, for this question, it'll be the last question in this topic. Can you tell us how we are meeting the needs of our special ed students in distance learning? Okay, I see two hands. I'll go to Ms. Walton and then Mr. Brown.
I've just been
Ms. Walton, we're having a really hard time with hearing you. Can you get closer to the mic, please? A little better, yes.
anyway, is that better? I've just been really impressed with the students and their parents, their families, as they have worked with our Fed teachers in trying to help be as flexible as possible. But being able to continue making sure that their students are available so that we can continue to provide the services to their students. The services have been able to continue in all the different aspects. And I love the passion that the parents have in making sure that they're there working with their students so that they're learning along with them now, which is kind of a little bit of a different twist than what it's been. But it's really cool to watch as the parents are saying, ooh, I can use that at home now. And so it has been so enlightening, and I get a thrill out of watching them because it is so much fun. And on the groups in the classroom, to see the SPED students interact and get so excited with each other and helping each other. Hey, I know that. I can help them here. And it's been a different situation, but it shows how we can all offer grace and kindness and be flexible. And I think we're teaching a really good skill of flexibility that's going to be something that's going to help us all. So it's been exciting to watch that.
Thank you. Mr. Brown.
Yeah, and I want to just kind of highlight something that Ms. Walton said that connects with Campbell, your previous question. The families being present, especially in the special education classrooms that I've been in, supporting their students has been awesome. And like she said, they're also learning some tools to work with their kids at home that they're seeing teachers model the types of things to reinforce their goals on their IEPs. And that's something that we didn't necessarily have before. And it's incredibly difficult, but as we're measuring all of this, if you think back to the spring, was the first day of school better than that first day when we went into shelter in place? And I think everybody would agree yes. And I think now, a month into the school year, I think we can say today was better than the first day of school. And so we keep making those small steps forward. And the distance learning plans that the special education teachers are including in the IEPs are laying out for the parents what types of things we're going to do to ensure that we are meeting those IEP goals for the kids to continue making progress forward.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Would anyone else like to share? Oh, okay. Ms. McFadden.
Trying to find the mute button, sorry. Just a little bit of a shameless plug as well for Fremont Adult School. I don't know if many of you know, but we also have an Adults with Disabilities program, and several of the students from your schools, as they age out of special education at the age of 22, they come to Fremont Adult School. And ours is really a day program for these adults until they decide to do something else or they age out. So many of them have been there for 35 years, and it's really a family and a community. And we were very concerned about how we were going to transition and how we were going to support the students. And I have to say, I agree 100% with what Denise said about the amazing ability and just commitment of our staffs and how they've just jumped in and really worked like crazy to create these programs that are really beneficial for students. And so we actually have 95% attendance with our 60 students in our Adults with Disabilities program every day on these types of meetings, Zoom meetings, Google Meet, and they're staying connected and benefiting from it. So I have to say, education doesn't end when we graduate from high school or graduate from college, and that these educators at Adult School are doing a really great job with the special education program as well. So I just wanted to, like I said, give that that plug to my staff.
Yes, that is a great program that you have over there. I have visited that program several times, and I recognize that it is a great adult education program. So thank you for that and the work that you guys continue to do there. We're going to move now to schools reopening, and we're going to ask our first question, probably of Superintendent. Where do we stand as far as when schools can open? Where do we stand with when schools can open?
Thanks so much for that question, President Campbell. It is a great question, and I know it's on the mind of many of our students, our staff, and certainly our families in the community. And in that context, we recognize that there is a desire for some to return to school very quickly, and that for some, a return to in-person instruction may be too quick. And so we recognize that there's emotions and perspectives on both sides of that equation. And I want to talk just a little bit in some general context and then highlight some things that are important elements of that conversation. So previously, our Board of Education made a decision that we would not engage in a discussion about returning for in-person instruction until we had no new cases for 7 days within Alameda County. However, recently, our trustees moved away from that position, and our next time for having a conversation about returning to in-person instruction is going to be in our November Board of Education meeting. What is it at the state level and at the county level that's happening in regards to reopening for schools are important things for us to consider. What has recently happened within Alameda County, as many of you know, is we have moved from the purple tier of the state's new tiered system for reopening. We've moved from the purple tier into the red tier. And that is set forward by the state as an agency. But it's important to note that Alameda County Public Health, as our local health agency, also has the authority to be a bit more restrictive should they desire to be more restrictive. And so we are held to the guidelines set by Alameda County Public Health. And those guidelines specify that schools can reopen for in-person instruction October 13th. However, I want to make a very clear notation. It does not mandate that schools reopen for in-person instruction on October 13th. It is very clear at the state level and at the county level that the decision about when to return for in-person instruction is one that is a decision to be made by each local school district. And within Fremont, there are a lot of things that we need to take into consideration as we develop a plan for in-person instruction, and safety and security of our students and our staff and our community are at the forefront. And there are a lot of things to consider in regards to how we build that plan. And we will have opportunities for community input. We will be engaging in conversation with our labor partners around how we return to in-person instruction. And some of the key things that I think should be noted are that a return to in-person instruction, whether we're in the red tier or even in the future in a lower tier, that return to in-person instruction is not a return to pre-pandemic education. It is a return to instruction in person with all of the same restrictions that were in place in our conversations about a return. Those things include face coverings, physical distancing, stable cohorts, screening on a daily basis for staff and students for symptoms. So those are just some of the highlighted points of that. And I think what's important for everybody to realize is that as you may see other school districts or other schools across the state look at a return to in-person instruction, based on the size of classrooms, that requires a hybrid model where in most cases students are in two separate groups. And so it may mean that students are coming to school on a rotating schedule, not every single day, or some other form of a rotation. And so there are a lot of aspects that need to be decided and problems that need to be solved in terms of how we make that work. And one of the things we want to make sure that we do is not move too quickly so that we're in a position where we're bringing students back to in-person instruction, but then returning to distance learning again, and then bringing them back again and putting them in a situation where we're changing their expectations and their learning environment too frequently. So I look forward to engaging with our stakeholders. I look forward to working with our Board of Education, with our educators, with our support staff and our administrators to identify the most stable and safe return to in-person instruction we can. And our next large conversation about that will take place at our November Board of Education meeting. So hopefully that gives a little bit of context about where we are and what that means for Fremont Unified.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent. That was a really good overview. I'm not sure if any of the administrators would like to comment on this question at all. You're certainly welcome to chime in since our superintendent gave a really good overview. If not, I see no hands. We can move on to the next question that we have, because I do think that the reopening of schools is going to be a very long process for us. We will have to do some really careful thinking about how we can do that in the safest, more efficient manner for our families. Disruption is just not something that we want to continue to do. We all can believe, even you and your families have been disrupted by COVID-19. So we want to minimize the disruption as much as we possibly can. So we'll move on to one of our favorite topics. All school districts just love to talk about this: budgets. Where's the money? Show me the money, right? How is COVID-19 affecting FUSD's budget? Superintendent?
That is a great question, and it certainly is affecting our budget in a significant manner. And it's not just COVID-19 that's impacting our fiscal condition. As it specifically relates to the pandemic, we are seeing a negative impact on our fiscal condition. And that is true for districts across the state of California, not just for Fremont Unified. And we could probably schedule a separate 3-hour workshop on the faults that exist within school funding within the state of California. And certainly we won't get into all the details of that today. I will keep it very brief in that summary. But in that summary, it's important to note that with the mechanism provided at the state level for funding our public schools, as the economy of California goes, so does school funding. So when our economy in California is growing and when that economy is strong, public schools are funded better. I won't say that they're funded well, but they're funded better. When the economy suffers and we experience a global pandemic and a corresponding downturn in the economy, our funding suffers. And when the state revenues are lower and the state economy suffers, we see a direct negative impact from that. What does that look like in a practical sense? Well, when we approached our budget adoption and the state adopted their budget, we anticipated, based on projections, that the state would be providing a 10 to 15% reduction in revenue for school districts this year. And as it turns out, they did not enact that level of reduction. They gave us more closely what I would define as flat funding. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean that our costs also remain flat. We're seeing a number of increased costs. And when those things happen, the state did a number of different things to reach that level of funding. And one of the things that they did was they built the state budget on deferrals. And deferrals, in the simplest context for school districts, means that the state is going to say at a certain point in time this year, you can spend the money, but we will give you that money once we have it. And you recognize that you wouldn't likely operate your family budget in that fashion. And so it becomes problematic to operate your school district budget in that fashion. We do have a marker in time at the state level of October 15th. And the reason the state built their budget that way is they were hoping that there would be some more federal stimulus dollars for education. And as it looks right now, we're not certain that those are going to come forward. Had we gotten them, the state was prepared to move out of implementing the deferrals. If we don't get that federal stimulus dollar specific to education, then we may at that point see deferrals at the state level. So those are some of the ways that COVID-19 is impacting our budget. Other things that are impacting our budget for Fremont Unified School District are the fact that we are in declining enrollment, and that in any situation for a school district results in a decrease in revenue. And we have mandated costs at the state level that are unfunded that continue to increase. And while we have seen some small incremental percentage drops in those, such as PERS and STIRS obligations and what is our retirement programs for all of our employees in education in the state of California, not just Fremont, those still continue to go up significantly. To try and give that some context for our listeners, in the last maybe 8 to 10 years, we've seen an increase in those contribution rates of over 120%. And that, again, is not unique to Fremont. That is across the state of California. And those are not decision points that anybody in Fremont has control over. Those points are set by the state legislature. So as that relates to a practical outcome for Fremont Unified, we do anticipate that for the next school year, we'll need to cut roughly $11 million from our operating budget, or we'll have to identify revenue enhancements of the same amount. And that means that at the end of this year or the spring of this year, we'll be making those tough decisions that will impact the next school year. And when we start talking about a number of 11 million, that's a significant amount. And as it should be for schools across the state of California and in Fremont, we are in the business of serving students. And it is normal for school districts to have 84 to 89% of their budget go to personnel costs. And when you think about all of the other operational costs for a school district, you then recognize that a reduction of $11 million in expenditures is going to be significant. And we have a lot of tough conversations ahead of us. But I firmly believe, and I know our Board of Education does as well, that one voice in the conversation is not how we identify the best solutions. So as we go through this process, we will have ample opportunity for our community to engage in a dialogue, for our labor partners to engage in a dialogue, for students and for our administrators, because most certainly we want to get many voices involved in the conversation and many ideas focused around solving this problem. And I believe that together we will certainly do that. We will keep students at the center of our conversations and the center of our focus, and we'll do everything we can to minimize the impact to their program and their learning environment. So that's where we are in terms of our current fiscal picture and the way COVID-19 is impacting our budget. It certainly is not helping us in any capacity there. And we will have to wait and see what we get from the governor's proposed budget in January. That's the next time that we'll get some real significant picture of what lies in the future. And we're watching that very closely.
Thank you, Superintendent. One question that I think one of the parents asked too is, how are we going to protect our educational, they call it product, given the financial picture that we're finding ourselves in? Does any of the principals have any insight that you'd like to share on how budget cuts have impacted learning for your students? Okay, there was a bird early. Now I hear crickets. Okay.
I think one of the things that it does do for us is that we have to be extra creative, right? Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that our children are not missing out on things. So, for us, there's some things like our friendship club that due to, staffing changes that unfortunately we haven't been able to maintain. And, those social, emotional, interpersonal skills are so vitally important, just like, all the academic areas. So the flip side is that we always tend to figure it out and come up with solutions. Our teachers, again, get very creative in what they do because, again, we want to support and make sure that learning loss doesn't occur.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Evans.
Yeah, and I'd also want to give a shout out to our PFAs and PTAs who have stepped up to offer support to us since the beginning, especially during the closure, reaching out to our staff. What do you need? What can we support you with technology-wise? So they've been a big help with us.
So has our Fremont Education Foundation came up and helped us. Fremont Bank Foundation has helped us as well. So we are getting some outside support, which is great. And FUS has helped us a lot with the food program, which is the Child Nutrition Services, which has been very, very important that we've been able to continue that program. Did I see some more, Mr. Brown?
Just maybe add one more thing that kind of goes with the parents and it. Whenever there's cuts that impact anything at the schools, I think we have a renewed sense of really looking at the data to see which kids it's going to disproportionately affect. And then the resources that we do have, kind of using those to target in that direction, because we know it's not equal in every student's household, where some families might be able to help make up for some of those cuts that are happening around the state or around the district or an individual school. And there are some houses that have a more difficult time to kind of fill in those gaps on their own. And so I know that that's a collaborative process throughout the district when we hit those types of times.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. That's actually a great segue into the next questions that the parents had around curriculum and instruction and equity. How is the district addressing equity in its instruction? And as you mentioned, not just in its instruction, but in other types of things, technology, food insecurity, homelessness, all of the things that really exist in our community. How is the district helping our families in instruction, during instruction? Let's see, who wants to go first?
Well, I will just make a couple opening remarks and then
Okay.
turn it over to the rest of the group.
Thank you.
I really want to just extend my compliments to our staff across Fremont Unified and our administrators as well. I think they've really kept equity as a foundational part of all of their conversations. As you mentioned, President Campbell, it carries over across every single thing that we talk about within our school system. It's not isolated to just one thing. And one of the things that I've been remarkably impressed with is the willingness of the people involved in the conversation to not only take action, but to be very open to learning. I've seen a very strong desire to hear and listen to student voice. And I think that is remarkably important in these conversations. And I've been very impressed with our students who have led those conversations. I've had a chance to talk with some students, be a part of some forums, and my compliments to those students for voicing things that are important. And I'd love to hear from our site administrators and our directors and our assistant superintendent of instructional services about the many things that are happening at the sites and at the district level related to equity.
Oh, I have lots of hands. Yay. I'm going to start over here with Robin.
Hi, thank you. So I know the initial question was about curriculum, but as you were saying, it's more than just curriculum. And so we also have to look at our practices when it comes to discipline. And so a focus for our elementary schools is really shifting our practice and shifting our mindset, that there's not a one size fits all when we're looking at discipline. And so this year we have a focus and a first cohort of 7 elementary schools that are going through PBIS training, which is Positive Behavior Intervention Systems. Our secondary sites are using restorative practices, and these two go hand in hand. And so we embarked on this journey this year, although one of our sites has been doing it for a number of years. And it's really just, like I said, shifting our mindset of how we support our students. And it's not about everything being equal. It's about removing the barriers for each child. And that's going to look different for every child. Mm-hmm. And part of that work as well at the elementary level is our site administrators are working together collaboratively on really starting to surface some of the areas of change that we need to make too as administrators. And so the elementary team is focusing on work by Nick Stone, who is a known author for children's books that are really about culturally relevant topics. And so we've been having conversations about her podcasts where she's working with educators in the field. And so we're using those as a guiding force for our conversations and really starting to surface the work we need to do as individuals, as well as a team, as well as a district.
Wonderful. That sounds wonderful. And I love your comment about equity does not mean equal. Equity means that every child gets what they need for their education. So thank you for that. Let's see. Leticia?
Level, we will be bringing forward to the Board of Education an augmentation of our district equity team. And that's going to be coming on October 14th, because what we're finding, and as we all know, equity can't be done in isolation. And so it has to be the underpinning of everything we do. Our hiring practices, our curriculum, instruction, certainly the social emotional. So I look forward to continuing to bring that forward to the board. I am going to be meeting with the equity team and also with our principals to get more input on this. We also have a very large group of administrators and teachers who will be attending Stanford's virtual conference around equity, race, inequity, and language. And so I look forward to have some very strong theory under our work, but certainly the practice that goes with it. So that's more to come on that.
Thank you very much. Mr. Larson, did I see your hand?
You did, President Campbell.
Okay.
Well, one of the things I love are books, and every chance I get to read, and I love getting books in the hands of kids. So I get to work with the English Curriculum Council this year, which is a phenomenal group of department chairs from our secondary English schools. And one of the things we're looking at is the novels that we expose our students to, both core and supplemental, and really taking a deep dive to make sure that we look at adding core novels that are representative of who's in our community and experiences they may have, and looking at the novels just through a critical eye to make sure that they're still, those that are on our list are still representing what we as an education community value.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. I love that. To inspire a love of reading in a child is just phenomenal. And so I share that with you. I share that passion with you. Mr. Evans.
We've had a lot of conversations on equity over this past summer and going into the school year. And one of the focuses our departments have had is trying to find the intersects of inclusion, not just in English and social studies where it really matches up, but in every department. Looking, for example, our science department's looking at how environment affects your culture. Math, using data points for demographics, especially when it comes to an election or looking at voting. Trying to make it not just something that we learn in one class or an ethnic studies class or a civics class or English, but something that we practice throughout the day because we know it's important at all times.
Thank you. Mr. Brown.
I'll just kind of add one last little thing here with maybe a specific example. Earlier in the meeting, somebody mentioned about listening to student voices in all of this. And I know in particular my history department, but they've shared this practice with the whole staff also. Some of the teachers are doing a thing called news, views, and confused. And on asynchronous time on Wednesdays, students find current event news articles. And as we all know, equity isn't new, but it has kind of been brought to the forefront over this last summer for a lot of our students with civil unrest, with the Black Lives Matter movement, and frankly, with our politics in the nation right now and the election coming up. And so students select and put articles up that they read, and then they have a discussion about that amongst themselves. And then the teacher leads a class discussion on some of those topics with the kids as the opener on the following Thursday or Friday with those classes. And so I think there are some ways that we're working this topic in, maybe organically is the way to kind of think about this, where it's not like a heavy-handed lesson specifically about it, but it's more student-centered and directed.
Yes, we have some very, very bright and intelligent students in our community, in our schools, and they will bring some tough conversation and have you really do some deep thinking about your own personal feelings around these issues, around issues of equity. We still have a little bit more time. One of the other questions that came up about curriculum is, what is the district plans, or does the district have any plans to add ethnic studies to its curriculum?
So just a little bit about that. So we've been watching the news, and as you may have heard, Governor Newsom vetoed the ethnic studies bill that was before him, requiring it for high school. But I think we don't stop there. As was shared, ethnic studies is already a course that we offer and can offer in Fremont Unified. And I think it builds to the success of meeting the needs of our students and our diverse community. But we're also looking at how do we augment and really bring up to the 2020-2021 school year our social studies curriculum, and how do we work to augment that and bring it up to where it needs to be. So that's one of the big next steps that we have for curriculum and instruction. We know that our board is very much committed to, again, making sure our students have the tool and our teachers have the tools that they need. So we will be bringing that forward. Also, we've had some conversations, I'm looking at Mr. Larson, with some of our high schools, looking at the development of an African-American history course that's also on the horizon. And so there's a lot of really great deep work that already started here, and it's how do we get it to the next level. So we anticipate being able to continue to build on that work.
Yes, Mr. Larson.
Yeah, Ms. Salinas is absolutely correct. And it's exciting times too. And Mission San Jose High School is actually one of the pioneering schools with a women's studies course that we hope to expand to our other schools. But that's another aspect that kids were interested in and show by their registration that they want to learn more and more. So
wonderful, wonderful. Did I see any more hands? Okay, so I'm going to move to our final topic, and then after this we can go to we can wrap up with some closing comments that any and all of you can make if you like, because we do have some time. I may have to time you a little bit, but we've got about 10 more minutes before we'll be over. But one of the families, the questions that are coming up always has to do with facilities. And now that the facilities are empty, families want to know what facilities upgrades are happening around the attendance areas. We are doing some middle school conversions, for sure. Mr. Brown, you're on mute.
Yeah, I saw Miss Hughes there. I'll let her go first and then I'll jump in.
Oh, she raised her hand. Somebody raised their hand. Oh, over there. Okay, I see you. Okay.
Our stage is being resurfaced. And so it's been a big day, multi-day project because everything that was stored up on the stage had to be removed. But that's going on at our school, and that's something that we couldn't do if the students were here. So now that we have a little bit of window of time with not needing the stage, it's being resurfaced. So we're very happy that that work is going on.
Okay, and Ms. Hughes is at Gomes Elementary School, so that work is going on in Gomes.
Yep.
Yes. Mr. Brown.
Yeah, we're one of the last schools to go through the conversion to a middle school. And I think one of the things when we first went into the shelter in place, we were thinking maybe we could really ramp up this timeline and get a whole bunch of work done while the kids and the staff weren't on campus. It turned out that wasn't the case. So there were a lot of delays in other areas with the state as far as permits and things of that nature. And so I know that they are moving to get things done. And actually, I was on a walkthrough with Mr. Larson today, the locations that are going to happen, and we're hoping to get some of that pushed through as soon as possible to get work done. And I know at Horner, they're up and running with the sixth graders, and the new facility is just fantastic looking over there. And so there's a number of projects like that. And then there's some smaller things going on at all of the schools that have to do with preparing for the return of students, sanitizers in each of the classrooms and in different places through the school, and different signage and things of that nature. So we are doing as much as we can to prepare for that day when we get to have kids and families back on campus.
That's really good to know. Are we putting hands washing stations around the schools at all? Yeah. No. Haven't got that far yet. Okay. Wonderful. Any other exciting things happening around the facilities you want to share? No? Okay. So I will turn this over to CJ to wrap up with some. You guys are welcome to say anything you like. And again, thank you so much for participating in this meet and greet and answering the questions of our families. And we look forward to having a great rest of the school year. Superintendent, I think you might have froze.
No, I'm here. Thank you very much, President Campbell.
Okay.
I would want to offer my closing remarks just as an additional expression of my gratitude. There were, as I said in the beginning, so many things that brought me to Fremont Unified, and all of them in the first 2 months have demonstrated themselves to be true over and over again. A board of education that is focused on what is best for students, that has a lens of equity in the conversations that they're having, a team of administrators that is remarkably talented, teachers across the district, educators across the district, support staff, classified staff that have been amazing, whether it's been the redesign of learning in a new modality, whether it's been our bus drivers being willing to take our meals out to 30 different locations, the work our child nutrition staff is doing. Our attendance rate is above 99% because our teachers and the support staff in the schools and the administrators have worked so hard to get students present and increase access. And I've had countless meetings with parents where they are doing a great job of advocating for their children and being an involved voice in our community. And so it has certainly been a unique time to transition into a new district, but I am very humbled by this opportunity and so appreciative of everything that people are doing to support our community and support our students. And I look forward to the time that I can meet you without a backdrop behind me, meet face to face in person, and even more excited for the chance where I can see the magic that's happening within each of the school buildings with the students and the teachers as well. So thank you to everybody, and appreciate you being here this evening.
Thank you so much. I echo your sentiments. I've been on the board for 8 years, and I have known some of our principals here on this call for many, many years, and they have seen the great work that they have done. I remember when Mr. Brown got the Spanish dual immersion program into his school, and how excited he was about that, and the adult education program, and Mr. Larson when he was at Mission San Jose. So I have walked with some of these principals through some of the wonderful things that they have been doing for our school district. And I echo your sentiments about our teachers and how committed. I hear you all talk about how committed they have been and how they have pivoted into an environment that none of us would have ever imagined happening in 2020. And so we've all stepped up to do what we can to support our most vulnerable students, and I mean our most vulnerable population, our students, our children. And so I am so grateful to be a part of such a wonderful school district and a wonderful group of administrators and teachers and support staff and paraeducators and everyone who goes into helping out our school. I'm just so honored to be a part of something so great. And so I thank you as the board president. I thank you. And I couldn't go to all of these meet and greets, but I thank everybody across the whole district who's watching this and who's watching us for the great work that we do. And so with that, we have about 2 more minutes. If anybody else would like to do a closing comment, I can give you some space. Uh-oh, the crickets are back. Oh, okay. Here's one. Oh, Miss Walton.
I just want to echo what you said, that, one of the things that has been so wonderful for me to watch as an administrator is our teachers and the commitment they made to teaching youth and our students, and their passion that they have, and the amount of time and energy that they're willing to put into it because they have that passion and love for education. I watch them and I'm in awe. And the support that we've been getting from the district, from the curriculum and instruction, from all the different groups has been absolutely amazing. And this is all new for everybody. And the grace and kindness that has been extended from everybody, throughout all the different jobs that we all hold, and our whole community and the parents have just been, it's been absolutely wonderful. And I think, again, it's something that we can all embrace. And I really hope that we don't lose that when we go back, because this is actually making us better people. And again, the teachers, the passion that they have, and how, I don't know, you have to have a passion for teaching, for doing the things that they're doing right now and the situation that we're in. And I think hands down, we have the best teachers and paras and everybody around. I've never seen anything like this. It's been wonderful.
And that is wonderful. And with that, if I have 1 more minute, somebody can say if you like. Otherwise, we can end this session. Let's see. I think yep, 1 more minute. And so we could all wave and say thank you.
Thank you, President Campbell, for hosting the
Okay.
evening.
Okay. We'll see you all soon. Okay. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Good night.